Joining us now, former FBI General Counsel and Senior Prosecutor on the Mueller investigation, Andrew Weissmann. He is now co-host of the Main Justice podcast. Also with us in studio, MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin and Paul Rieckhoff. He is still with us. Andrew, welcome to the conversation. So what does the Constitution say about the role that Congress plays in declaring war?
Sure. Well, there are two bodies of law that people have to be thinking about. One is the Constitution, sort of domestically, what is the law? And then there's also international law. Both of those are at issue here. Now, the Constitution is crystal clear. There's no question whatsoever that the power to enter into a war is given to Congress. If a war is declared, the president is the commander-in-chief and leads that war. But it's Congress that has the power to decide if there is a war or not. But that means that there is substantial legal questions and wrangling, and there has been for decades, over what is a war. Does this constitute a war? Is it sufficiently long? Is it in duration and in goals? And so that's really on the domestic side, that's the key legal issue. And then just quickly on the international side, that's where the intelligence about what did we know beforehand, and so that we can judge whether this was a defensive maneuver, whether there was an imminent threat, whether it was a proportional response. Those are all very much open issues where we really do not know the answer. There may be good answers to it, but remember, we actually went to war once already under the Bush administration on faulty intelligence. And so we really don't have the answers to that.
So based on intelligence, the White House says it's now going to limit how much intel that it shares with Congress after it says a classifying assessment about the strikes on Iran was leaked. Just minutes ago, President Trump posted to Truth Social, here's the quote, "The Democrats are the ones who leaked the information on the perfect flight to the nuclear sites in Iran. They should be prosecuted." What do you make of all that, Andrew?
Well, look, first, with respect to leaks, there's no question if somebody has leaked something that is of national security or classified, then, I would agree that that needs to be investigated. But, we have not seen that evidence yet. And also, this idea that you don't have a responsibility to brief Congress, to me, it is of a piece of what we're seeing in the courts, which is this administration has told judges repeatedly that they have no role whatsoever in reviewing the actions of the executive. You're seeing now the same thing happening with respect to Congress, where they're saying Congress doesn't have a role. The idea, though, that an administration would say that you don't have to brief after the fact, at least the Gang of Eight, about the intelligence, that is the critical information that Congress is entitled to. And so, and just to be clear, that is something that presidents in both parties have traditionally done. This is not a partisan issue. This is really a Trump issue in not being responsible and responsive to other branches of government.
Beyond Congress, Lisa, is there any other entity that can check the president's powers in this regard?
If folks, Alex, are looking for the courts to be the solution here, I'm going to throw some cold water on that and say this is not an instance where you can count on the courts to come to the rescue for a couple of reasons. First of all, when Congress has an issue where they feel like their rights have been disrespected, it's not enough if Paul and I were, for example, members of Congress to sue on our own behalf. We would not have standing, which is how the courts conceive of an injury, just as individual members of Congress. It's the body as a whole. And we already know that Speaker Johnson doesn't have the appetite to even have a political fight with President Trump, much less a legal one. The second reason, though, is that this is a court that has a very broad understanding of the president's powers. Courts in the past have been reluctant to get involved with questions about whether the president's actions are appropriately within his constitutional powers in situations of strikes. That will be even more true in a court like this one that continues to expand the president's Article 2 powers, despite the fact that the Constitution envisions a system of checks and balances.
So, Paul, with the White House now saying that it plans to limit the kind of intelligence that it shares with Congress, what would you want to hear from lawmakers on why Congress doesn't seek a bipartisan limit to the president's war powers?
What I want to see from Congress is a spine, because they've been abdicating their responsibilities since World War II, which is the last time we had a formal declaration of war. Trump has blown through every guardrail around our democracy and our military. And this is the biggest one. Yep. Right? He's saying, you will not stop me, even if I want to go to war. The only step further than this is nukes. So we have to ask ourselves, who is going to stand up and slow him down? Speaker Johnson is abdicating his responsibility. He's wrong. He's failing America. He's failing the troops. John Fetterman, who apparently is okay with this, he's wrong. He's failing the troops. This was designed to contain all presidents, and we've never needed a president who needed to be contained more than this guy. And now we've got Pete Hegseth, who says he wants to come after leakers. Well, that's pretty ironic after Signalgate, and he put out classified information to the world, right? So it's upside down world. And what he continues to do is blow through every guardrail in America. And the question I keep asking Democrats, Republicans, and now ultimately the American people is, how are we going to stop him? Because he can continue to go further. And even if the courts say no, even if Congress says no, he throws up the middle finger and just keeps going. And now it's war. Now it's American sons and daughters in harm's way. And it can go further if he isn't stopped.
Has the U.S. ever been in a situation like this before? And has there been a recourse, Lisa?
I mean, there have been situations like this before, but oftentimes they end up in a situation where we don't actually go to war, and so all is well. The problem in situations like this one is you don't know how an isolated strike is going to reverberate through the rest of the world. We can sit here today and say, right now, we are at an uneasy truce at best, but it doesn't look as if the president has provoked World War III. But at the time where he called for the strikes, was it entirely clear how this was going to resolve itself? Absolutely not. Did we know that we wouldn't be at war? And that is the danger about what Paul is saying about Congress abdicating its responsibilities. If they don't demand a say in when the president authorizes the use of force and troops on the ground, we end up in this blurriness where we're judging the legality of actions or the permissibility of actions after the fact rather than at the time when it happens. Increasingly, as technology gets more sophisticated, as weaponry gets more sophisticated, that will be a tougher and tougher line to draw at the outset, but all the more important that Congress does it.
One more time, Andrew, because I know you addressed this on your recent podcast. We're talking domestic laws. We're talking about domestic military being used. But internationally speaking, the laws that the administration has to consider before a strike like this, what are they, and were they considered over the weekend?
So that's a great question. Under international law, a country can obviously act in self-defense. It can act in collective self-defense. And you are hearing the Secretary of Defense talk about this in terms of collective self-defense. That would be, just to be concrete about it, if it was determined that there was an ongoing war between Israel and another country. So here, obviously, we're talking about a country that was then bombed. If there was an ongoing war, then you can have something where there's collective self-defense. But that is true if and only if there's some imminent harm, if there's some necessary step that the country needs to take to defend itself, and that the step that's taken is proportional to the harm. And so one of the things that we just don't know, and this is what differentiates this situation from many, many other presidents who have taken action, military action short of a war, because it's clear that has happened with both Democrats and Republican presidents. So that's not unique to Trump taking action without waiting for Congress. What's unique here is the lack of accountability after the fact in terms of giving the information so that people can judge not just what now a lot of people are focusing on, which is the effectiveness of the strike. Did it work or not? How much has it really had an effect on the country? But also, what did we know beforehand? Yeah. Because that's what really is necessary to decide whether this is a violation of international law. And again, our history in this country is one where Donald Trump himself has very much denigrated the intelligence community, saying that we've already gone to war on faulty intelligence. And so Congress and the public are entitled to more information to know what is that intelligence.
Absolutely. Andrew Weissmann, I want to thank you so much. Lisa Rubin as well. And now I'll say goodbye to you, Paul Wyckoff.